record on this computer. It's true. We did. What did we work on last time that you and we had a good session on something and then we
I
didn't
forgot
have
to
it
record
recorded.
it. I don't
It was
remember.
good. It was good.
Maybe it
But
was JSON B or something. I don't know.
oh yeah. And then but we used your advice. Like
Oh,
we
okay.
took your advice on application settings. We made it a JSON B column.
Oh, that's good.
So we did that. So yay. Okay, let me share my screen. Let me see what I have up here. Let me remove like Slack and random stuff that I don't need up. I do need Zoom. Okay, so share my screen. So this is what I'm working on right now. And it's a simple thing. It's the kind of thing that you might have to do for a lot of different features, which is basically we have a new scope, a new token scope called AI workflows that's already been added.
This is, I think,
But
what we were talking about before. I
yeah.
feel
Well,
like it was
we
the
already added it.
addition of the scope, or we at least talked about the addition of the scope previously.
Exactly. We
Okay.
were creating the OAuth token. So I think this is what we talked about last time. Add service class, generate your workflow token. And then there was a database migration where we added this dual workflow JSON B column, which originally had been something more specific that was like an integer or a string or something. And you'd pointed us to these docs. Okay, this conversation
Oh, yeah.
doesn't this is one of those things where the conversation's like in the thread here because I had commented, where is it?
Somewhere.
Somewhere in the history. Um, Not this one. This was like a
Oh,
Terry
I see
special
that.
because I was
Yes.
like, hey, oh yeah, it was brought to my
10,000.
attention. Yeah, that was you
Uh,
bringing it to my attention. So I all got
yeah,
done. And Dylan hadn't even seen it. Look at you, Terry. You're ahead of
I
the curve.
know. Well, I don't remember why. I think our team used it, and
Mm,
then because our Elasticsearch settings are there's too many.
yeah. Yep.
And I think we're supposed to be moving them into a JSON-B column, and nobody has time. So we didn't,
Yeah.
and we haven't, but we
Yeah.
should. Um,
Well, migrating is more annoying than adding, right? Like when you already have the data and you're migrating it to JSON-B, you have to like migrate
yeah,
it. It's annoying.
yeah,
I
it's
don't want to
not
mess that up.
ideal. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
when it's in settings, it's more scary and
Yeah.
self-managed customers and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a multi-milestone process to get that done. And if it's required for cells, I definitely could see like the justification in spending like engineering effort on it right now, but I don't know if it is. And one's busy.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
I'm
the
glad
new
that got added and
thing,
everything's happy.
it
So you
got
have a new
added.
JSON-B scope.
Everything's there. It's great. But the thing that we didn't do as part of this MR, which wasn't exactly an oversight, but it like maybe it could be counted as an oversight, is that we added this new scope called
Mhm.
AI workflows, and we don't have any endpoints that accept that scope. Which is fine because
Hmm.
the whole reason we added a new scope is that we want to be very granular in which endpoints accept it. We don't want to just use like read API. We want to like a few read endpoints and a few write endpoints, and that's like all this scope can access.
Okay.
So I have a draft MR that does this for one endpoint.
I actually
And
don't know how this works, so this is kind of interesting.
okay, so yeah, so we have this allow access with scope method that's defined in API guard. Let's open up API guard. Guard. I think it's a helper. Yeah. Where are you? Here we go. Allow access with scope. And so it basically takes any scopes you pass to this, and it's a class method,
Mhm.
and it brings it to allowed scopes. And then this is allowed scopes. And then ultimately, yeah, I don't actually know where scopes is defined here. Oh, hey, Chad.
Hello.
Just to fill you in, we are looking into granularly adding the ability for a new scope to work for one GitLab endpoint. Well, multiple, but like, how can you say this endpoint and this scope work together, positive result, for a new scope called AI workflows.
An active
So
scope?
it's an OAuth access
okay.
token scope. Yeah. Yeah, I know scope is a very general. When I started grepping for the word scope in the code base,
Oh, no.
got a lot of random
Yeah.
responses because it's active record scopes. We use the word scope in some of our like domain language as well. I can't remember where.
Yep, search has
With runners,
scope, which
search.
is the, yeah.
Yeah, it's a general word. So, but this is an OAuth scope. I mean, personal access tokens have scopes too, and the scopes most of the time exist for both paths and OAuth tokens. But in this case, we only are adding it for OAuth tokens. But the scope already exists. We don't need to worry about adding the scope. We have this scope now. I would like it to be accepted by this one get endpoint. I'm going to add it to like a handful, but the challenge in front of us really is how do we do this in a way that is secure and repeatable and easy to test? Because I'm going to do this to like for like 5 to 10 endpoints, and so I have this working as is. I'm using this allow access with scope method, which is defined in the API guard module. But what I don't love is this regex. So on line 226 here, I have this regex that's like, and I stole this. There's like one other endpoint that does this for a different scope where it's like, if the endpoint looks like this, we use this request get a lot. Okay, so allow this scope if it's a get request, but not as much for this matching, because when you're looking at user input and comparing that to the regex, there's always like there's frequently a denial of service potential.
Mm.
I've been on
That
some of
like
those too.
you can, I dealt with that a lot on the wikis and stuff. It's like insanely easy to make regex just go crazy, and especially with the cloth whatever library we have, and with back references, and just make it consume insane amounts of CPU by crafting a special regex.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a safe, there's some safe helpers that you
Yeah.
might use in place there if you're worried about that. It's in the docs, like you'll have to excuse me, it's after 3 p.m. and I'm very tired, but because I've gotten a lot of like the REDOS, there it is, in the secure coding development guidelines. They have some examples in here on how to avoid the catastrophic backtracking. I haven't had a lot of luck with the timeout, because I think, yeah, use the untrusted regex. The only thing that's weird is it's slightly different syntax because it uses RE2 and not whatever the other way uses, but I was able to use that in other spots, and okay.
Question.
Yeah.
So the check you're doing with this regex on the scope, like you're already nested in some endpoint level. Like, how is it working with where you're nested at the resource level? Like, is it applying to everything below that, or is it duplicating it, or what?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So in my ideal world, I could add this check inside the endpoint itself, right? Like I would love to just put a check in the endpoint that's like, nope, you can't do this one. Like I see you've gotten to this endpoint and we are going to reject your request because we don't have the right scope. But this is a class level method, so I have to put it, most of the times it's actually nested just within the class itself, and then putting it in
within instance scope.
Sorry?
The endpoint blocks happen within instance scope.
I don't know. Is that a question or a statement? You
Said
it kind of like a question. Okay.
I was wondering, like, why can't, like you said, they're instance level, but
it's a class level. It's a class level method, not as I would like I would like okay, actually, that's a good question. Controllers are weird.
Put it in the input
Um,
itself, you mean put it down like further in this API file or put it in the actual controller code or something?
yeah, let's look at this. So, I think this method is on get a single merge request is 379 or 397. So in my ideal world, I would say like allow access with scope AI workflows or something like that in here. And then like accessible with special scope. This does not work because we are inside a method. And again, this is a weird, I don't even remember like what framework we use for our API. I guess Grape.
Oh,
Grape
great.
API.
That's what I was
Yeah.
saying. So this block is executed in instance scope, not class scope. And that's
Yeah.
what I do it.
Yeah, this is an instant scope and allow access with scope is a class level method. But maybe we could add an instance level method. Like, is there a way we could make something? Because
I
I
mean,
would prefer that to the regex.
yeah, it's just like you got to figure out the Ruby incantation to say this, either delegate to the class level or directly mix that in at the instance level.
Mm-hmm.
This is why in the remote development code base, we have no instance methods. Everything's a class and there's no, we don't have to worry about things like this.
Chad.
Chad always coming in telling us how cool your
Hey, I
code
still have
is.
it on my yeah, once I'm done with this nightmare refactor in the other area, it's on my plan to look at my service. But I'm hoping by that point that that code has progressed even further than where it is.
There's now a GitLab FP
Yeah.
module that is like the core of it that's reusable. And I'm also working on getting the doc. So I'm chipping away at making it new.
So that API guard, okay, can we look
Module.
at that and see, is there a way for us to change? How is that thing? I don't
Can you
know.
just say like
Yeah.
not allow access with scope? Does that work? What does that
What
do?
do you mean set allow access with scope?
No, like on 391.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, let's try it. I mean, so I have a test for this, so we can open up the test.
Oh, I love that you have a
Um,
test. Okay.
It took me longer than I would like to admit to write this test. I wrote a little test just for this, which is great. And then and this is passing. Actually, let me comment this out and just let's confirm this test is passing because that's how I remember leaving yesterday, but I might be misremembering.
Fail saying method not found. It's like, okay, what scope do I have to get in
Yeah, how do you get up enough to get that class level method?
or to get that module mixed into whatever class scope that I'm actually in Grape land.
Great bland.
Yeah, the grape stuff has really confused me when I first started here. And
Yeah.
then I haven't touched it in a while. So we're back to that confusion level.
It must have been like really popular. I know the GitHub API is also written with Grape from friends who work there who say they hate it. And it must have been like really popular, like the year for some 1 year, and everyone was like, yay, Grape. Okay. So this is passing. So this is an OAuth token with that scope.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna go up to allow access. I'm gonna comment out this guy.
There you go. Okay.
One of my favorite shortcuts for commenting blocks like somehow broke my last doc files update.
no.
It's really throwing me off. Okay, and then I'm gonna go here and put that here, and I'm not gonna do any of this stuff because I just want this.
Yeah. I feel
So I
like
could
if
put a
you, this would be
debugger
really
in
nice.
here. Or should
Oh,
I
yeah.
just run it and see what happens?
I feel like I like having it there because then it's really clear, like where it's nice to look at it and be like, oh yeah, this is gated. Like right here.
I don't know where it's. Wait, did it fail when you just had to point self?
It said redundant self because self would be the instance, right?
Yeah.
So you can't.
Okay.
Self.method is the same as method, but self.class.method would invoke the class level method. Maybe. I mean,
Hopefully.
depending on what class we're in. So I'm going to run the test. I'm guessing this is going to fail spectacularly. But we'll
I
see.
am gonna be positive and think that it's gonna pass.
Wow, Terry.
Hey, it's Wednesday. I have something
mean-
to look forward to.
You don't use Spring?
I don't use Spring.
In
Good
Spring?
question. I guess I don't have Spring enabled right now. I thought Spring was enabled by default. They might have disabled it.
Not from the command line. You have to explicitly type bin/spring space rspec.
Oh,
Okay.
insufficient scope error. Oh, because you didn't
I
have the scope.
found it, but you were like, didn't have the other stuff you needed maybe in the class.
No, I think what's happening, so by default in the GitLab API, you need the read API scope for any read or get endpoint. And so I'm not passing the read API scope. I'm just passing AI workflows, which is what I want. I want this to be just that scope available. And so before it even gets to the endpoint, it's like, you don't have read API, so we can't let you through. So it's rejecting it. Because when you add the allow access with scope, this is like an additive method. So when you call this, it adds the scope to any existing scopes, but this check already happens by default somewhere like way up in the hierarchy. So I guess that's why it has to be called outside, because
Like it won't even let
otherwise-
you get to the code.
no.
Okay.
Oh,
So that's why it's
But,
better.
okay.
but is there another solution?
I guess.
What does allow access with scope do?
Allow access to scope. So we were kind of talking about this before we got here. Well, it's right here on the bottom. It shovels the scope into allowed scopes, and then allowed scopes is this. That doesn't really explain much. I have to figure out where
Oh, it looks like
this
there's
stuff-
a scope registered for endpoint method that's
Where
an
is
old
that?
method. I think it's in the same API guard file. It's called scopes registered for endpoint. Let me see where that's used.
Mm,
And then that's used in the current user method.
what the weird. Weird.
Is that where it failed?
It failed
I think
in
that is where it failed.
auth
But
Let's look at
auth
$198.
is called from current user, which is validate and save access token bang. And that's the exact error that you got. Insufficient scope.
It's called in lib API helpers
Yep.
86. Okay,
Mhm.
let's look at this. 86.
So this all happens in
Wow.
like class level plumbing before a grape even gets control of the individual endpoint. So
Yeah.
you're not getting
Yeah. This seems like not what you would want to be in current user. But
So is that an indicator? Maybe like what you're trying to do is going against the grain, like you're not supposed to restrict it to specific endpoints. I don't know, just throwing it out.
yeah. I mean, so to be fair, or to give more context on the decision to do this, we have another scope. Look, I've seen this scope approach happen a few times, most recently for AI features. We have this AI features scope, ag AI features, let's see, and scope, allow access with scope. Come on. We basically, we do this allow access with scope for like a few files. Let me look this again. Yeah, so we do this for a few files. We use this AI features scope, and it's for all endpoints in that file. So it kind of works nicely in that scenario. I was maybe a little bit short-sighted when I decided to repeat this approach. This is kind of a Band-Aid approach, what we're doing right now, adding a new scope. The real long-term solution is to have to have the token itself include which endpoints the token can access. We have, where's the issue for this?
That kind of sounds like a jot or something.
Going along with that, what if you just like rip these endpoints out that are relevant and put them in a separate file, and then
I
it
like
would-
that idea. I like that idea. It's the downside of that is that they're kind of all over the place. So these are the endpoints. It's like get merge request, merge request endpoint, get jobs. So I feel like it would be a little bit not ideal. I mean, I guess what I could do, could I rip them out into an endpoint and then just call super in them?
talking about like the actual Grape API file, like the
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
the Git is declared, and just have another one like this stuff with OAuth things, and just temporarily have them live in a different file, and then it's only there, and then you don't have to do the regex thing.
Yeah.
Totally. So I like where your head's at. Just making sure I understand what you're suggesting. So you're saying take this
Just like copy
whole
this
thing.
file and call it like temporary thing that does my OAuth stuff, and delete everything that's not in it, and vice versa in this file for what's delete everything that you move to the other file.
So you delete, I don't want that. You would take all this,
Like just to test
put it over here, just to test it. Yeah. But then what happens later? Like, do I commit this as well? Or
Well, go ahead and leave it that way until you do, leave a note here pointing to the issue to say the right way to do this is to include the scopes in the token. Once that's done, we can inline these back, see blah, 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 this MR, and basically just revert what we did there.
Oh, so like a temporary housed location for the API file, just until,
Just to avoid regex hacking.
yeah.
yeah, I like that. I think the token thing is not going to happen tomorrow. It's a larger thing. 'Cause actually, right now, security is working on fine-grained paths, like right now. So the ability to do what I want to do, which is to allow a path, like when you set up the path in the UI, you say I can access this endpoint and this endpoint and this endpoint. They're adding that, but not for OAuth tokens. And these are OAuth tokens. So I don't really have visibility on when the OAuth token functionality would be available. So my concern with that approach is just, this is going to be a Band-Aid. Like people are going to go looking for the endpoint and they're going to be like, why is it in this weird file?
I mean, it's if like you name it the same as the other one, but with just something else on the end, like with OAuth, and it'll be right in the file system, put a big disclaimer at the top of each one. Here's what happened. Here's why. Here's an issue. Then you've absolved yourself of all sins. And
so you think you
there-
do a different name for the endpoint then?
no, just for the file, right? So you should be
Just
able
for the
to.
file.
I mean, I'm assuming Grape works that way. Like you can have the same two different files contribute to the same structure. Like there's tons of different Grape files that all contribute to the same REST API. I'm assuming
Yeah.
there's a problem with this. That have the same boilerplate at the top that the actual Gits need.
I wonder, could we utilize something? So, okay, all right, let's look, see if this works. Pull it out and see if you can get it working. And then I'm wondering if there's maybe like,
I think you're missing one end there.
Yeah, it looks like I am, but then it like keeps.
Oh, you've got your line 7. All of your stuff is indented too far. The line 7.
Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Okay. So in this scenario, I would add this up here. And I don't need to do this crap. I just do this. And then do it properly.
Level was it before, or was it in the does it have to be within a resource call?
It doesn't have to be with, the actual method. Yeah, the actual method should be within resource. That's probably why it was not necessarily the same. It should be like this. Yeah, like that. So I delete this. And then,
I comment that
yeah,
out, file, so it's not, you're not duplicating it.
yeah, well, I kind of just deleted it, I think.
Okay,
I
So
copied,
done.
just going big, just going fully in on the first test. Gosh, grape is so confusing. Like, do I need all these optional params copied over too?
Ooh.
probably. Depends if you use them or not.
I don't know if this endpoint uses them.
Oh, it
Looks like-
doesn't say, you just have these optional params that could be used with any of it. Ooh.
But would it do anything? Okay, I'm gonna delete this.
Very,
Huh?
probably they're necessary.
Probably.
Okay, okay. I'll copy this over. This will be fun. Oh wait, and then optional params, then optional merge params.
Everything in the helpers, just to see if it works, copy everything, in the whole
Okay.
helper,
Okay. Okay.
decide to
And
whether
that is within resource. That's within here.
it was a resource, okay.
Yeah, so it's in resource, and then we get to list project merge requests, which I don't care about. I hate the way, this is the complaint about grape sessions. I hate the way that we don't put spaces around these do ends. It's like so silly, but I find it so confusing that we,
It's really hard to parse the code when there's not space for your eyes to see. For me, it's harder
Yeah.
to see what's happening because there's just so much nested stuff.
well, and it's like not nested, like, I guess this is for this, but like they're in different blocks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know that they're associated with each other?
Yeah.
that's why there's no spaces. That's how
I
you know.
guess so. That's how I know. Okay. So yeah,
Wow.
oh my gosh. I hate everything
That's a
here.
strange way to do
It's really
things.
strange. I hate it so much. Okay, so I think I copied over everything I need. Maybe I didn't. And then what I'm gonna do is open up my test. I think I closed it before. Let me go find it in
Is
my
there
draft
a
demo.
higher level, like request spec or something that it would, this,
Yeah, it's a
Mm.
request spec.
for this?
Yeah, so it should still work, right? Although, with Grape, don't you have to like add the file somewhere when you add a new Grape file?
Uh,
No, I thought there was just magic, everything under there. Give it a try.
yeah, run the test.
Okay, run the test.
Yeah.
Carrie thinks it's gonna work. She's in an
I've-
optimistic mood.
I think
Yes.
it auto loads everything under that directory. Maybe
I
I'm
also
wrong.
have a wild idea that might send you down a totally wrong avenue, but it is another option if this doesn't work.
I think I've added new Grape endpoints before, and I always was surprised that you had to add like a manual entry somewhere.
Hmm.
I honestly, I think there's no reason this shouldn't work theoretically. If we get it right,
Oh,
just
Why
whether
is it failing?
Unhappy. Why is it so unhappy?
Why is it giving me so many failures? Like, I just ran one, I thought. Okay, what's happening here? Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to run so many tests. I just want to run this one.
Oh.
I ran the whole block. Come on, little guy. Sorry, I know it's driving you crazy, Chad, that I'm not running Spring.
you just literally just type bin spring rspec. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. 404 not found. I think I have to
Oh.
add the file.
Yeah, you got to add it somewhere.
Hmm. I don't
Um,
remember. I don't know if I've ever added a new grape
Should be in the
endpoint.
docs.
API. I think it's just like in here. Yeah, here it is. No, well, I don't know. Yeah, it probably is in the docs. Here it is. Mount. You got to mount it.
Oh,
Of
make
course.
sure you keep it in alphabetical order.
Yeah. API, AI merge requests. Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay. I don't know why those are in alphabetical order, but then these, oh, because these are like namespace. Oh, API v2 documentation. Whatever. API, AI. Merge request. Is that what I did?
Oh, maybe that's what, yeah. That
Okay.
makes it happy.
I'm gonna run the test again. We'll see.
Okay.
I just feel like this thing of moving the files. I mean, I get it, but
Yeah.
if it was like 1 or 2 endpoints, I think it would
How many is
be more
it?
likely to fly. Well, right now it's probably like 10.
Mm.
Uninitialized constant. Okay, it doesn't. Oh,
I think, oh, wait.
because there's no. I think it just needs to be AI merge. Or let me just call this request. I think it doesn't like that the name doesn't match.
Oh, yeah, probably. So the other thing, I was looking at, and if you're, if you really don't like the file move, I mean, there are feature category attributes for endpoints that are per action. You might be able to add a new endpoint attribute that allows you to do what you want, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, the
Like that
feature
might be something
category.
that you could know ahead of time. I don't know.
Hmm.
Because if
Ah,
the endpoint has,
Right.
oh, it passed, so okay. So this works. And it's probably like the least involved change.
So you just have to, the bad part is you'd have to pull out that helper's block to something
Yeah.
shareable and not duplicate it.
Yeah.
Or find out if you even need it. Maybe just delete it. I don't know. It seems
Yeah. It seems like a lot. Well, is there a way, like, so let's say I removed all of this. Let's say I remove all of this. Let's copy.
I mean,
And
I don't think a test is going to catch that because you would have to like specifically be testing the usage of those parameters for your endpoint, right? So if they apply to your endpoint, they're definitely needed.
yeah, well, I was wondering, I think the thing that I was wondering just now is there something I could do where I just call like super here? Like I actually delete all of this.
Oh, like keep
Like basically I
thing?
use this whole thing just as a way to add this, and then I actually keep the old definition in here.
I don't know.
It seems like a good thing
I
to do.
know that we extend these in EE land, like we do that in workspaces. We have for the internal Kubernetes agent endpoint, we extend that in an EE module.
Yeah.
So
So
uh
that would be the other approach. Some of these are already EE endpoints,
I
but
mean, could you use that prepend approach to prepend a non-EE thing on
well,
top of this?
you still have a hook to it. It's like
and I think
um
it would wow.
you know what? Like I think actually this approach didn't maybe didn't do what you wanted because it still applied to everything at that resource level. Do you have a
You think
test?
so?
Yeah, because maybe it was like last one wins or something. And so it just
Oh,
every endpoint in there, even the ones that were previously declared. I have no idea how Grape works. But that would be something to test if you do go with this approach, that it's actually not applying to the other endpoints you don't want it to do the negative test.
Hmm. Okay. I'm trying to think of what the best thing to do is here, or how to even think about it. Because I think the EE approach would work, except that some of these endpoints might be. Then, by the way, this is an EE only functionality anyway, so I would like to put this stuff in
I mean
EE.
that That was just an example saying like you definitely
Yeah.
can't pull logic in. It could have literally been any module. It didn't have to be EE.
Yeah.
You just say, here's this extension point that, a method that you call from there, but yeah, I guess I don't know how applicable that is. And then we like override that to do some extra work, but that's like for that endpoint everywhere. It
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily solve your problem for multiple endpoints.
Yeah. Shoot. And then, because I was like, well, maybe we should dig more into like this feature category thing, which I think that's what you were kind of referring to, Terry, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I was
Like,
like, there's like attributes that you can set on an endpoint, and I'm like, could that be used in the overall to be like, oh, not feature category, but if we create some new attribute that's like, this is an AI gated endpoint, whatever you call the attribute, like AI workflows. And when it's set for those, then that's where the auth applies. But I don't know, what do you have access to when you're in that code block that says allow scope access to, like, what methods does that, what do you have access to look at?
I
Can
don't
you see the feature
know.
category
I don't know
in
because the
there?
feature category is being defined on the endpoint itself.
No, there, it's all over the place.
Like urgency low is another example of this.
Yeah.
Should be better than feature
Mm,
category. That's
okay, so
Yeah, because like it's basically like it would be nice if you could say at the post or put or delete, you set this attribute AI gated or whatever, and then in the top level, if you could check if that attribute is set, then you gate it. But I don't know if that attribute is available in the wherever that like allow scopes call is.
we
yeah,
can
it,
put a pry in
like
it and see.
it
I don't
would be
know.
happening in the class context because
Yes, like line 7 in the upper right hand side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So what you're saying is you
Like,
want to
can you
see if feature category is available in here
in mm,
in lower
where
right.
would you have had the regular expression check, wherever that would be?
Well, I would like it to be in my ideal world. No like expression, just do the check in
Yeah,
here. So I don't have to have the regex. But the
yeah.
problem is that the request is being rejected before we get into the method because there is a scope check. And I guess maybe we should
Oh,
check on where that's the
so
universal
like
scope check is.
if you do, hold on, sorry. I don't know how to like say what I'm trying to say. Like if there was a regular expression there, would it be inside like a do block after that call?
After the call on line 7.
Yeah, like what did it look like?
Oh, I'll show you. It looked like this. It was
Ah,
within resource
oh,
projects,
if, but
I mean, most of these
I'm,
allow access with scope. Ones are actually within the class.
yeah, so I'm wondering like inside that block, what, can you see the feature category of the request? Is that, yes, or
Yeah.
like
Oh,
the
that's interesting.
urgency, because if you can, then we can add a new attribute for an
Hmm.
endpoint and then maybe use that to see,
Okay.
I don't know. I
Okay.
wanna, I
Let's
wanna
run
see
the
if we
test
can
and
get
see.
something that works for you.
Yeah. Okay, let's run this. I'm gonna run the test. I put a pry in there, and I
Be-
think we can just like
bec-
see what's there.
Right, because then ideally you should be able to go on the individual things at the top level definition of like the put or the post or whatever and say like attribute name, true or whatever.
So you're looking for urgency. This is
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, like request dot urgency. Ooh, okay. Insufficient scope error. So,
Oh, because of the
um,
super. That didn't, okay, so that didn't work. The idea to,
The super
yeah,
doesn't work. Okay, well, let's just put this back on the original one for now,
Okay.
right?
I wanna like go follow your MR and see where it ends up at the
So-
end.
Dropped a couple of some links in the chat. Like the first one is just a usage of urgency, but the next two, specifically the last one, is like where it actually parses
Yep.
attributes, it looks like. So theoretically,
Mhm.
you just jam something in there and say, hey, do I have this attribute? Okay, call this thing, and that should be in the class scope.
Okay, I'm running the test. I've removed the like new
Let
module
me-
stuff just to keep it clean for now. That we know that approach
It
is
worked.
possible. It worked.
Yeah, so.
When you try Spring, Jesse,
Okay, for you, Chad, for you.
you'll literally
Well,
say
I
that like over time.
yeah, well, hold on. We just earn this, and after this, I will do it. So request. What do we want to look for? Request
Do you
dot
have like the
feature category.
feature category? What is it doing?
Really, it's
so
like
slow?
turn on spring, turn on spring. Wow, what does it mean?
I think it's not
I think this
happy.
is a
Yeah, the request is
stack
like
level too deep.
the A.
Oh, maybe.
Undefined method feature category for a grape request.
Yeah,
Oh, so
but it may be attributes. I don't know. They
Stop
do it.
this madness. Okay,
Yeah.
stop the madness. Stop the madness. Okay, so I'm gonna set. What do I have to do? Export spring equals 1 or something.
No, you don't even need to do that.
What do I
No,
do?
you just from the command line where you were.
Uh-huh.
Like, I wouldn't necessarily do it when you're debugging, but when you're just running things normally, like go to
Yeah.
your expect command.
Yeah, well, there's like deep in my dot file somewhere. That's why.
oh,
I have some kind of I have a shortcut, which is
No,
probably.
like where you were literally running this from the command
I
line.
know I was running that by pushing one key command. So I wasn't
Oh.
typing it in. Yeah, so that's why it's not as simple as just retyping it. But I mean, I understand that it's really annoying to watch me do that without Spring. So it's running.
So in the debugger,
Um,
let's see all of the attributes of the request.
yeah. Can you
in
just
the
see, like,
debugger, I
wh-
didn't.
what
Well, it
does
just
the
says
request
undefined
have?
method feature category.
It dumped everything out. Can you like look for a feature category in this output?
Yeah, let me look now.
I think you typoed it.
Sure. 1 out of 3. So
It's
it's
1,
not
2, it's not
nothing's here.
anywhere.
So like attributes, like here,
What is?
are you still in the debugger? Can you like try
I'm
to
just looking at, I know I'm not, because it never stopped kind of going. Attributes. I see attributes here.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Those are the grape attributes. Oh,
I
Yeah, it
can't
just kept going.
myself in JetBrains, you can just drill down into these things and expand them.
Yeah, well, this is just the output. It just kept going, so I just canceled out of it because it was like not
Oh.
stopping.
so if
Um,
so it panicked, and then maybe if you
Yeah, I can just do it again.
run it again, we can just explore what request has.
Yeah, and I think I think I honestly, this is not going to spring again because it's just running from a key
It's
command.
okay.
But I think I have spring disabled somewhere because I was having
major issues
issue.
with it where it wasn't
had an
running,
issue.
and then Stan fixed something and it started working again. So I started using it. So I will give it another try because Doug, who also comes to these meetings, was affected by it too. And he said it was fixed for him.
I was having an issue. I was like messing with gem source code And then that
Oh.
was the issue, is that Spring was like caching my gems. Okay,
That was not my
so
issue.
request, should we look at request.methods.sort?
Sure. We have.
We have base URL.
Attributes, it's not attributes.
There's no attributes.
What about class methods?
Request dot
Class
class
method.
method?
What
This
if it
seems like
says
it's
it's
gonna have a
unhappy
problem.
again? I'm not gonna be happy with it. No, Grape, why you do us like
No.
that?
It doesn't like, I think class methods is not a thing. I
Yeah,
think that maybe it's a module. Or, oh, maybe it's class dot methods, and I did class editor methods.
Oh, maybe.
yeah.
I don't know why
There's
this
got
is.
to be a way to like get to that from the
what?
request, because those feature categories are like used in logging and stuff. There has to be. Like
So
that's how we get all those logs that say that this request is slow and
the
it's
second link
attributed
that I
to.
gave you, can you just like put a print in there to print out the attributes? I think that's what you're getting.
Put a print where? Here?
Yeah. And the file that I sent, endpoint attributes config.rb.
Okay, let me find the chat. Endpoint attribute config RB. Oh yeah, I already have that open right here on the upper right. So you want to put a print where?
Like just print out the attributes. PP attribute.
Where? But yeah, but where in the file?
In
Under
the
set.
I guess under set.
Okay. Maybe at the end of set.
I mean, at the beginning because it's sanitizing and doing other stuff, I think.
Okay. Or I could put a pry here.
I
Why
mean,
not?
why not both
Why not both? Okay.
before it, but do the PP before the try.
Okay. Do we have pretty print as a part of our thing? Our gem file?
It's part of Ruby, right? It's part of Ruby now.
Pretty print? I don't know.
Pretty
Hooks
sure.
is. I don't know if pretty print is. Okay.
IRB, you have PP.
Okay, we'll see. That's one of the teams we were just on a call this morning, Chad, where we talked about for the personal productivity team was just renamed. But they're like, oh, is everyone gonna call us the PP team? Like nobody wants to be the PP team, not cool. Okay, so I don't see any printing. We got an attribute.
Yeah, so feature category. So like just see if you can you call that, can you include and directly call that scope method thing here?
So this would be include API guard. Oops, I misspelled it. Capitalization.
Yeah, you need to
Oh, I think you need to do the is it the double colon thing?
yep. Where does it live?
Yeah, lib API guard.
So API.
API guard. I think
Extend,
because we're in a method, we can't include a module in a method.
extend.
Extend.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So you got that. And can you call that?
I think allow access with scope. Scope and features. Because it's a class method.
We're inside.
Are you in an instance method?
Set. I mean, it looks instancy.
Yeah, because your config, it has an instance
Mhm.
hash after it. Well, okay, so much for that theory.
I guess it just feels like this feature category stuff, I don't know how it's set, if it's set on an instance, because it's all at the top. And somehow it can be on each individual item. And so I don't know how the heck they're doing that, but that feels like what you want this thing to be, which is like
Yeah.
you need a way to set something that can be either set at the top level or on an individual item, and then use I wish we had more time. I can't stay past the time, but I feel like
We're close.
I'm
something
no, but I
interesting?
feel like at least this is an interesting avenue to explore.
Can you look real quick at the other file I dropped? Because it does look like that's in class scope, the endpoint attributes.rb.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And so I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm already there. I just got there. So this is feature category. These are class methods.
So these are just
Um,
directly call to do
mhm.
stuff, but it appears to be in class scope. So
So
yeah,
could we do scope?
yeah, but you'd be back at the same problem. You wouldn't be able to call this from.
From the method, from the specific endpoint method. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, look at this superclass stuff. Is this something?
I don't know.
Like it's basically saying what is the parent class feature category or urgency?
It's
Getting
super
really
fast.
into the depths of grape. I don't know. Maybe just give up and do the regexes.
There is a way to do this because I feel like there are feature categories that are set on those individual items. And then there are feature categories that are set at the top. And so, but if it's too much
I think
work,
that's a
maybe it's not
very
worth implementing. Um, the regular expression stuff, somehow there are feature categories that take actions. So if you look at like the lib API merge requests, there's like a feature category setting where it takes a set of actions, and those actions don't have regular expressions in them.
which
Um,
ones?
like if you look at, which one are you in? You're
At lib API merge requests.
at the very top of that, there's like a feature category for code review workflow, and it has a set of actions that it applies to. Like, I don't understand how any of this stuff is possible. This is literally what you want
Yeah.
for that
Oh,
scope
true.
thing. And so I'm like, maybe there's a way. And then also there are feature categories that are added at the individual level because sometimes
Mhm.
they're owned by different teams. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
I would take like an hour or so if you have time. I don't know
Yeah.
how, and see if you can mash this together. Like this is very similar to like the worker attributes and also attributes that we have in the advanced search migration framework.
Mhm.
It's similar. I feel like
Okay.
the answer might be there, but also if you spin your tires for like half a day and it doesn't work, then maybe what Chad's saying is just do the regular expression and try to write it real good.
Like what the category thing is doing is just setting the endpoint attributes for those endpoints, but that
How is
is
this mapping?
still not like actually taking the action. But you you could theoretically like just loop over them and compare whatever your current endpoint is against the list you gave it and only do those.
Only do those, you mean only allow access with scope for the one?
Yeah, like the feature category, that's literally the first thing in that file where you were just looking with the class methods in the endpoint attributes. So like method
Mhm.
one, which is like, things with scope. And then in there, no, but at that point you don't have access, it seems, to the request to know like which endpoint you're actually on.
Yeah, that's the thing that I was trying to figure out is like, what do you have access to when that scopes allow whatever the for scope. I'm having trouble figuring out where that is called in the call stack to where you like what you can see.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it's just annoying that you can't get for the request, like anything about the definition of the request?
Mm,
I'm sure that it's there somewhere if you were to dig into that grape request object.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask Doge.
Maybe a grape bar.
endpoint attributes set. Okay, well, I will continue this exploration. This has been very
I don't know if it was helpful.
No,
but
I
hope
think it
so.
was because I never would have even thought to use the feature category or to at least look at that for inspiration for how this might work. And again, like, yeah, it's weird because this is a little bit of a band-aid solution. Like, I don't want to create a precedent where we're like mapping individual endpoints, different scopes, and that's like normal. But I also don't want to do the regex thing because I think it's going to get me in trouble. So
It's
Yeah.
definitely like an avenue for potential like attack vector, which,
Yeah.
because almost I would say like 50% of the security things that I get as a reviewer, they're like redos. Some of them in code that we have in my team. So
And now that I think about it, like the duplicating the file, I honestly think that's just making it apply to everything that is in that.
so you think because it's the last, because
Module.
it's defining, it's like overwriting whatever was above it.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, within this level of the, the directory of the API, apply this to everything through that. And I think it's going to apply regardless of what file it came from. So
I still, yeah, I wouldn't, I might like look at this more. That's such an interesting problem.
Name, yeah, like
I would check out, like I linked also the worker concerns for migration options, but you could check, like there's something there. I feel like the answer is there. And if it's not, I would love to see what ends up working.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you create something very general where someone could be like, hey, this is in this scope is only apply here, maybe it could be used across like the whole like company, or maybe it could be useful for other areas, or people were having problems with like gating specific endpoints to a particular scope.
mm,
You can't be the only person that wants to do that. That's why there's that one regular expression in there already.
yeah, someone did do that already one time for
Oh.
runners.
Oh.
Okay, thank you all. This was fun. Now I have to go figure out how to run Spring again. So
You'll be
God
fine.
won't
Maybe that'll
ban
be the
me.
best part of your day.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Let us
Well,
know
I'll
how it
talk
works
to you guys
out. I am
later.
interested in where you
Okay.
end up. So
Okay.
see you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.